Hi, my name is SteveBambury. I'm the co-founder of Growth Partners, and I'm delighted today to be on a Prosperity Show. I've been looking forward to this for so long now. The conversations that Prosper and I have had over time have been fascinating, and the opportunity to share with you, the audience today, some of the tips and tricks that I've been able to learn over my career, particularly in the digital marketing, digital growth space. So in today's episode is going to be fun-filled. We're going to share with you some insights around how you may connect with more of your ideal customers, take them on a journey, influence their decisions, and build high-quality leads for your sales team. I'll also give you a couple of takeaways, some things that you can do in your own time, in your own space, without spending any money at all. So thanks again to Prosper and this wonderful opportunity.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga. And today, we've got a guest whose journey is as dynamic as the winds that once lifted his world record-setting kite. Now, Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing exceptionally well. Thank you very much. And all the more better for seeing you.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. We've been waiting for this moment for quite a while. I mean, since last year, and we're trying to figure out times and things of that nature. So thank you so much for showing up. And I'm a little bit starstruck here. It's not every day that you get to speak to a world record holder, and especially in the thing that you did, kites. So you can only, it can only get better from moving, from here onwards. So thank you so much, Steve.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So for those that are watching right now, yes, you heard that right. Steve Bambury, the co-founder of Growth Partners, once held a world record for flying a kite. But that's just the tip of the iceberg of the things that he's been able to do. So for the past 4 decades, Steve has been a guiding force in the manufacturing sector, helping companies navigate the complex landscape of connecting with their ideal customers. And all of this emanated from him being frustrated by traditional strategies, that he was coming across. He then went on and co-founded Growth Partners to offer the innovative solutions that are effective, efficient, and affordable. Now, his passion for growth and his commitment to sharing this hard-earned expertise will actually make him a true catalyst for business transformation. So in today's episode, we're going to dive into Steve's rich past and also explore his current ventures. And while we're at it, we might just uncover the unique methods that he's employing to drive success out there. And we'll also discuss the types of clients that he works with and how you too can benefit from the insights that he has been giving out. And I've connected with him in numerous places and numerous corridors of the internet. So I want you to buckle up and get ready for a conversation that's both enlightening and engaging. And I know you're not going to want to miss any second of this. Now, Steve, I could go on and talk about things that I know nothing about. Your journey started off in the manufacturing sector, and you were there for about 4 decades. First of all, what drew you to this industry, and how has your passion sort of evolved over the years?
Yeah, I started my journey. I was in high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And my dad gave me a great piece of advice. He said, well, get out there and find yourself a trade. So I joined the military. I joined the New Zealand Navy and I was an apprentice, did my apprenticeship with the Navy. So that whole interest in manufacturing sort of stemmed from being an engineer by trade. And even to today, I still use principles that have been applied in engineering in terms of how we do the work that we're doing today, over 45 years later, it was, from having joined the Navy.
Absolutely. And obviously, you're now opening up another dimension of your life there. What was life like in the Navy?
Oh, it was brilliant. It's an interesting time. A bunch of young guys, you throw them together and you put them into an environment where, you get put under all sorts of pressure. You have to turn up and show up when you're told. And I think there's a lot of discipline that comes from that stood the test of time all the way through. Respect, certainly, respecting your colleagues, doing what needs to be done, because on a warship you're part of a team. And it's really important that everyone does their job when they're supposed to do it. And that's not a lot different, I guess, to business. You've got a team, and we can achieve a lot more as a team than we can as a group of individuals. So, a lot of great life lessons. And I'm really proud and privileged to say that so many of my closest friends today are people that went through that journey with me, even though it was such a long time ago.
Absolutely. And obviously, thank you for your service for that part of your life. But what was the transition like, Steve, from obviously coming from such a structured way of life to now come into civilian life?
Oh, look, I made a pretty easy transition, I guess. I stepped into the world of sales over 40 years ago now. Left the Navy, had been bitten by the travel bug, liked to travel, like to see the world. I love to experience different cultures. I love to experience different ways of life, different perspectives that gave us. And I went across to the UK, chucked the backpack on, disappeared off to the UK, ended up over there for 4 years, and got involved in the world of sales. And I guess some of those basic principles, honesty and integrity, hard work, stood the test of time when you step into the sales world. And I loved it. I loved the whole notion of connecting with people and deeply understanding the problem that they were trying to solve, and whether we as a company that had a product or a service to solve that were the right fit or not, as opposed to trying to convince someone to buy something that they didn't really need or they didn't want. So I think those foundational principles came into play.
Absolutely. And in between all that busy schedule, time, teamwork, and things of that nature, how did you then find time to fly kites?
Flying a kite happened in my school days, actually. It was an interesting one. Opportunity and temptation coincided. We had, at the time, I lived down on the Coromandel coast in New Zealand, and we had a beautiful wind that fronted up for a couple of weeks. And it was perfect opportunity for flying kites. There was a guy that had already held a number of world records for flying kites. He saw the opportunity with the weather conditions and came down to our little beach resort and hung out and bought a whole bunch of kites with him. And a group of us got involved, and we started doing some fun things together, tried to break a few world records. We missed out on one, and I managed to get a kite up in the air, and it stayed up there for a long time. Ended up with the world record. Not for long, though. Not for long, because someone else in our group who'd put a kite up a couple of days after mine, fun enough, my kite disappeared, and his kite stayed up there. So I lost the record after a couple of days. But that was all good. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So obviously this experience would have opened up, the possibility that you could literally be at the top of your game in any industry or endeavor that you jump into, right?
Yeah, with the right conditions. The conditions have got to be right. So if you create the right conditions for something to flourish, then magic can occur, right? At the same time, there's competition out there. So you've got to be mindful of the competition. In that case, competition was the guy down the road that wanted the world record as, probably more than what I did. So took the opportunity to take me out of play. So you've got to, I guess, keep one eye on the ball and make sure that your competitors can appear from places where you might not expect them. And I think that's a good lesson.
Absolutely. I quite like that. And I like the analogy of, using the right conditions, right? Because a kite wouldn't fly on a totally windy day or on a day where there's 0 to no wind speed going at that particular time. And you went on and co-founded Growth Partners out of frustration with traditional strategies because the conditions that you found yourself in were not sort of ideal. So First of all, tell us what specific challenges had you observed that, frustrated you so much that you went on and co-founded Growth Partners?
Yeah, that's a great question, Prosper. And to be fair, I'd seen a lot of companies that were struggling with growth. We saw market conditions changing, and that pace of change has accelerated in recent years. But even all that time back when we founded Growth Partners, we could see a lot of companies that were struggling to understand how the market was moving on them. Traditional sales and marketing efforts were just no longer effective for them. And they were confused with all of the options that were in front of them. So they struggled to understand where they should be investing, how much they should invest, and most importantly, what return on investment they were going to get. They just knew that they had a problem, that what they were doing was no longer effective, and they didn't know what to do about it. Alternatively, you had companies that had experienced some great growth, but they wanted to go to another level. And again, they were confused with all the options in front of them, and just weren't sure on what they should be doing. And that was, the fundamental premise of how we set out. Those were the real world problems that we could see that we wanted to solve at Growth Partners. And that's kind of how it all came about, was looking at a problem that was worth solving, that people were struggling with, that we wanted to help them solve. And that's how we started out.
It's like being lost at sea, right? I mean, like all the businesses didn't know where to sort of start off from. And now your role now involves creating what you call future-proof roadmaps for businesses. Now, could you maybe walk us through this process of developing these strategies and what people can actually expect from the work that you do?
Yeah, we've developed an interesting system of building websites backwards, so that we look at traditional websites and they're no longer really effective. So many people have got a website that is not consistently generating high quality leads for their sales team, right? The old classic traditional site, which is a brochure, was all well and good years ago when your sales team were out there knocking on doors, going to trade shows, handing over business cards, and people would go to that website to validate. And it was a validation piece of content where you would go to the website and you'd just check it out, make sure that there was a good company, and have a look around. That's all changed. Today a website's got a much bigger role that it needs to fill. But in order to understand how to build a website, we flipped that whole notion of traditional building websites and reversed it. Hence the notion of building websites backwards. It's kind of an approach that has proven to be very successful for us, and completely changes the dynamic of the outcomes that you can get from a website today.
Absolutely. Now, if I understand you correctly, is it like, obviously, if you know you're going to build a 40-story building, you would know that the foundation has to be deeper, not necessarily just starting a building and then hoping whatever you're building is going to sustain what you've built. How do you actually manage to build websites backwards?
If you think about the traditional way, Prosper, that websites are built, you'll go to a website builder and you say, I need a new website, right? They'll ask you a few questions about your business. They may even run a workshop for a couple of hours, understand a little bit about your customers and understand a little bit about your business, and then they'll go about and they'll build a website. They'll make it look good, they'll make it sound good. They'll tend to come back to the business owner or the sales team and ask them what content you want on the site. And the challenge with that is that we're asking the wrong people. At the end of the day, the people we should be asking are our customers, and our customers are online now. We've had this transition from being, and as things have evolved and COVID accelerated that, we've got a massive audience of prospective customers that are now online. They're choosing to search for solutions to problems. They've got lots of questions, and they want to do their own research in their own time on their own terms. And you've probably heard it yourself. A lot of companies that we talk to, their sales reps are struggling to get out there and get appointments with their prospective customers. 5-10 years ago, that wasn't a difficult task. Get out there, go and visit your customers. They had time for you. You'd go and see them. Now it's really, really hard to get hold of them. we've had this pandemic, as I mentioned earlier, which has accelerated this. When you lock people down, tell them they can't leave home, they sit at home and they work on their computers, and the habits that they start to form is doing their research at home. Now we've got a workforce which a lot of that workforce is remote, so they're not in the office as often as they used to be. So again, it's a lot harder to get their attention. They're online doing their research. So we need to understand your customers and how they're behaving, the questions that they're trying to answer, the problems that they're trying to solve before we even start to build a website. So, as I mentioned, the traditional way, a little bit of research, build the site, and then try and get people to it. We flip that completely on its head. We start with the end in mind. We want to deeply understand our customers' business. We want to understand how they talk about their business, the different categories that they have for their business, the subcategories that they have, the different audiences that they have, who they help, the problems that they solve, and how they talk about themselves. And then we go external, and we want to understand, and we do a massive piece of research here to understand their customers and how they're behaving. How do they talk about their business? Invariably, there's a disconnect. The way that we talk about our business is here. The way our customers look to solve the problems that we solve is here. And there's this disconnect. So we need to understand how their audience is behaving. We need to understand the problems they're trying to solve and how they talk about those problems. We need to understand where the demand is for their different products and services. We need to understand who they're competing with. And they will have different competitors competing for different sectors of their business. What are their top performing competitors doing? How are they engaging with our prospective customers, and what can we learn from that? Where alternatively is there demand and opportunity which has been unmet by any competitors out there in the market? And we will often invariably uncover low-hanging fruit from market sectors that are not being addressed. And then we start cross-referencing all that data. So it's a huge piece of research that takes place at the front end. Data is the first thing. Now, data on its own is not unique. You can get data. In fact, in some cases, we're drowning in data. But it's about understanding and taking insights from that data. What is that data telling us? That's a lot harder to get than the data itself. And that's why, for us, we've got very, very senior data analysts that analyze that data, take insights from it, and then the hard part is taking those insights and converting that into a strategy based on growth. Once we understand that, now we've got an understanding of what that website should look like. And not only that, Prosper, but we also have developed a system which allows us to predict future revenues from the website that we build. So we're taking away guesswork and assumptions from being able to say, right, this is what it should look like if you want to dynamically engage a big audience of prospective customers. This is how they're behaving. So what we want to do now is we want to be able to intuitively answer their questions, solve their problems, and influence in their buying decisions before our competitors get a chance. And then we want to deliver that seamless customer experience because we know the questions they're asking, the journey that they're taking. We want to make that experience feel so personalized for them that it makes visitors to that site feel like your business was built just for them. And then finally, we want to give them no reason to leave, because if they've got questions that we're not answering, you can bet your bottom dollar that your competitors will answer them, and they'll go to someone that answers their questions. And now you've lost control of the sales process, right? And then the final bit that we put together, if we understand all of that, we can understand what that business will look like and what future revenue we can generate from it before we even start to build the site. And then we build it. So that's that backwards methodology in terms of the way we go about it.
Absolutely. And I feel you in all that you're saying, because I don't know if you've ever noticed with my teeth, this presents a $14,000 dental surgery, okay, that if somebody talks to me nicely, they'll be able to get that money out of me. But every day I walk past a dental practice and they've got a sign outside that says new patients welcome, and I don't identify as a patient. So that's 14,000 that's walking past their dental practice every single day because they're not communicating, in the words that I identify as to be their customer. So I can only understand what you're saying because so many people have all these whiz-bang websites, but they're truly not speaking to the right kind of people with the right kind of pain or with the right kind of need that they need to be solving out there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
A great example of that is you go to a website. 99% of websites you go to that have got a section on there called frequently asked questions. Mm-hmm. Those frequently asked questions talk all about your product or your service. All right, they'll tell you all about the process that they've got for repairing teeth, or how they do this and how they do that around your product. And all of the research we've done and the millions and millions of data points across multiple industries that we have been able to assess and understand, typically 80% of all search that takes place online on the internet right now has got nothing to do with your product or service. It's got to do with the problems that we're trying to solve. Yet the frequently asked questions are talking all about the product. Well, I'm sorry, but there's that disconnect. If you're talking all about your product, you're actually missing out on as much as 80% of the conversation because people aren't interested in the product until they understand that the problem that they solve is similar to the problem that you have, right? Mm-hmm. And there we go. Frequently asked, not really. It's asked down here when I'm further down the buying funnel, but at the top of the funnel, those frequently asked questions need to be problem focused, not product focused. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. And I think that's a big misconception with a lot of people because most people you will find that they are speaking to a whole different audience, yet the people they actually serve are completely different, and it's very obvious in the mismatch that you're talking about. So many businesses are struggling with this sort of digital transformation and really connecting with the right kind of people with the right kind of pain. What are the misconceptions? Because you've mentioned about these frequently asked questions. What other misconceptions are you also encountering that people are doing wrong when it comes to their website or actually getting the right people to turn into leads on their website?
Yeah, well, one of the interesting ones is the buyer journey that we go through, right? We simplify the buyer journey in our conversations. We talk about the 3 phases of the buyer journey. Awareness. Never heard of your brand before, but you need to make me aware that I'm relevant and relative to the problem that you're looking to solve. Consideration. It's only in that consideration phase that we get the opportunity or have earned the right to put our brand in front of them. We earn that right by building trust, by showing them that we relate to the problem that they've got. That's that consideration phase. In the consideration phase, the conversation's very different. In that consideration phase, we started to talk about a product. We started to talk about a service. In that consideration phase, I'm now comparing you with everybody else that solves that same problem in a similar, in a different way. So we're not necessarily competing just with direct competitors. I'll give you an example. Let's say for a moment that I'm a manufacturer that manufactures a robotic welder, and that you're a manufacturing company, and you're looking to, because of the costs that have gone up in your business, wage costs that have gone up, lease costs, rental costs have gone up. So your manufacturing business, you're not looking for a robotic welder. You're just looking to make your business more efficient and more effective. So you're not thinking about a robotic welder. Now, the robotic welder absolutely solves that problem, but who else can do that? I'm selling a solar system. I can put solar up on your roof and reduce your electricity bill. I'm solving the same problem in a different way. I can sell you some software that tracks and measures time management and time efficiency. Again, I can make my team more efficient and more effective in a totally different way. So you've now got 3 examples there, time management software, solar system, and a robotic welder that are all solving a similar problem for that manufacturer in a very, very different way. So in that awareness phase where we mentioned before, where the majority of that search is taking place, who gets to control the conversation? The one that answers the question to the problem and then earns the right to put their product or service in front of them. Now, if I'm the robotic welder, the manufacturer of that robotic welder, and I don't answer it, but the solar company does, they're going to get to put their solar system in front of that potential customer. And then they're going to take them through that consideration phase and show them all the reasons why my solution is the best one for them. And here's me sitting there. I haven't even got a lead because my customer didn't even know that my brand existed. They're not even going to compare me to other robotic welders because they're not even thinking about robotic welders. They're looking for a solar system installation. They're comparing solar companies. And I'm not even there. I don't even show up. So that consideration phase, the conversation is very, very different. Now I've got towards a latter stage of consideration. I put my differentiators in there. I'm now giving you all the reasons why you should buy my robotic welder as opposed to the guy down the road who's got a competing product that competes with my product. At that stage, we've got to have a very different conversation online. We've got to have all those reasons why my product is better than anyone else's product. And it's not until I've been able to do that, whether it be through a case study, whether it be through a product comparison, that you, as the manufacturer that's looking to make his business more efficient, is actually going to reach out to me to say, hey, I'm really interested in talking to you about your product. So can you come and give me a demo, or can I come somewhere and have a look at a demo of your robotic welders, because I think that might be a great solution to my problem. By that stage, you've already got brand preference. You've already largely made your mind up of who you want to work with, and it's me. But if I haven't taken the customer through that journey, I'm not even in the conversation. That lead just never appeared in my ecosystem, and I didn't even know that you existed as an opportunity. So that's, I guess, one of the other big problems that we see that we need to be able to solve by reverse engineering the building of a website. We don't build them as websites. We build them as digital sales concierges. So think of that sales concierge, taking someone by the hand and guiding their journey, building that trust by answering their questions and solving their problems, earning the right to put that product or service in front of them, and building preference for the brand so we generate a high quality lead. That's that whole building backwards philosophy.
Absolutely. And I quite like that, because people come to the internet to get information. And if they're getting that information from you, they get to know, like, and trust you. And people do business with those they know, like, and trust. And our websites really should be the greatest salesperson they should be, because you mentioned earlier on that people are on their computers 24/7 and they're researching. They want to just come to the shop front knowing exactly what it is that they want. And you, as a salesperson, you're not just maybe offering them the deal of the day and they already know what products they are making a purchase from. But this all sounds like it has been formulated by somebody with an engineering background, all right? Because any other marketer will just be looking at maybe analytics, and that's as far as they would go. How many people are clicking at a button on a website and things of that nature. How has your technical background sort of influenced these innovative solutions that you're providing at Growth Partners?
Well, it's interesting. I think of myself now as an engineer still, but I'm a different type of engineer. I'm not a fitter and turner as I was back in my military training. I'm a digital growth engineer. We're engineering solutions. We talk about building that website. We talk about reverse engineering. We can reverse engineer competitor strengths and bring them into our strategy so that we're taking the best of the best out there and applying those. So those engineering principles and practices hold true across multiple disciplines. We're just doing it in a digital space now. I'm not, I haven't got a lathe and I'm actually manufacturing something on a lathe, but we're still manufacturing and manifesting an outcome. And in this case here, it's growth. And it's not just vanity metric growth, click-throughs, impressions. It's real growth. And what does that mean? We want to measure leads. How many leads are we giving you? But not just how many. What is the quality of those leads that we're delivering? What are your conversion rates from those leads? What are the average sales values from those leads? And what does it turn into in terms of revenue? Again, those are real outcomes that we want to be measuring, as opposed to getting caught up in all the weeds of these metrics that don't really drive meaningful growth for us. So again, that's, apply some engineering principles to that in terms of the real outcomes that you want to create, as opposed to beating yourself on a chest for getting, twice as many visitors to your website as you had last year. Well, so what? Did you double your revenue? Because if you haven't doubled your revenue from twice as many visitors, then maybe you haven't quite got it right yet.
And you know what's really interesting is the marketing industry is so flooded. Remember, we were talking earlier that anyone with a pair of sweatpants, a laptop, and a t-shirt can call themselves a digital marketer, whereas you are literally providing tangible transformations in people's businesses, because if ROI is now talk of the the conversation that you're having, so many people cannot do what you are actually doing. So for those that are considering partnering with growth partners, what would be the best way that people can take a look at what it is that you're doing, and how can they start their journey with you?
Look, they can reach out to me. On the screen there is a QR code for my LinkedIn profile. I'm happy to help anyone wherever I can. And it's not just about trying to sell someone something. It's about understanding the challenges that they've got and understanding whether they've got a real problem that we may be able to solve, because we're not the right fit for everybody. We certainly understand that. But I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone that's looking for growth, anyone that's struggling to understand what they should be doing, why their existing strategy may not be effective for them, or what are the options for them moving forward. Happy to help out and just have those conversations. That's probably the best way for people to reach out and make contact. Always happy to help in that regard.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that people can actually start their journeys. But obviously, before somebody jumps on, they're probably thinking what we've been doing, it can't be a sunk cost, and they still need to be cutting through the noise, get clarity, and really start asking the right digital marketing questions that really sort of matter. Where can people get started? Because this is just getting noisier and louder every single day.
Absolutely. Look, there's a couple of things that people can do that I would recommend to anyone that's looking to grow their business. Let's go back to those frequently asked questions we talked about before that may not be quite so frequently asked. Here's a little exercise, which is a great one. Get your team together. Get your sales team, your marketing team, get whoever you want in that team together, and start thinking about the problems that you solve for your customers. And make a list. Grab a pen and paper, grab a whiteboard, make that list of the problems that you solve. And then take those problems and think about those problems from how would a customer go to Google or search the internet or use a search technology of sorts to find an answer to that problem. Google is a great one because they've got such dominant market share at this point of time. So go to Google, put that question into Google, and then hit enter. And then scroll down the page. You'll be familiar, Prosper, as I'm sure a lot of your audience is, with a little section that comes up, people also ask. All right? You'll see that people also ask section. Those are real questions that people are asking. So have a look at those questions and see which of those questions resonate for your team. Which of those ones, well, that's another way of asking the same question. Jot the ones down that really resonate for you, and then put them together in little clusters. So you might have a problem over here. Here's 3 or 4 questions that the audience may have that are real questions to solve that problem. And put them in little groups or little clusters, and now you've got a framework for a blog or a website page or an article that you can publish, which has got real search behind it. So we start to shift the mindset from I'm going to be talking about, thinking about my company by way of the products I sell into thinking about the problems that we solve. We start creating some content around that, and we're going to start getting some traction. We're going to start attracting an audience that's looking for a solution to a problem that they've got that we just happen to solve. So that's an exercise I think is really worthwhile. I remember we ran a lunch and learn workshop up here in Sydney tail end of last year. And one of the attendees, well, there are a number of attendees there, but one of them in particular, he just sat bolt upright. He just, wow. He went away, and the following week, he wrote a whole bunch of content for his website based on just that one principle alone. And it's changed his life. He's got a whole bunch of traction come from it. He was so appreciative of that little exercise that has made a difference to the size of the audience that he's been able to attract and build opportunities that come from that. So it's a lovely little exercise you can do.
Absolutely. And I remember fondly when we had the chat, when I was saying that SEO is always going to be there. It might change the platforms where we're getting the actual search from, in as much as, Google had been taking dominance, but now AI is also sort of slowly venturing into those areas. But if we are simply educating others, we are simply educating people on who we are, what it is that we do, and how we can help them, we'll always be prevailing in and around, those search engines. Now, so many people might not know when is the right time to reach out to you. Do you have a preference of people that you might want to start showing up? Because with the kind of work that you're doing, I think it's very immersive, and some types of businesses might not be a perfect fit.
Yeah, look, another great question. Thank you. We tend to find that, and we've run our program now for some of the biggest brands in the world. And we learned a couple of things from doing that. First of all, we learned that even big brands with all of their marketing budget, all of their dollars behind them, still don't understand some of the things that we talk about. The second thing that we understood is that some of the big brands are really challenged because they don't have the agility to make decisions fast. And you will know as well as anybody that the ability to make fast decisions and make a change quickly is so very, very important. So what we learned from that is that we work best with privately held or family businesses where we've got direct and immediate access to key decision makers within that business, because that allows us to share insights and create strategies that they can act on fast, because the market and the whole world is changing very quickly. You mentioned AI. There's a whole bunch of other stuff coming at us. So the market is changing. It's very fluid, and we need to be dynamic in the way that we change and adapt. So that's one of the things that we're looking for. One of the other things that where we deliver the greatest value is to businesses that are selling in a complex environment. And what I mean by that is where a sales team is required to complete the transaction as opposed to being transactional. So if you're selling, can't see that one, a pen or a pencil, you see it, you like it, you jump online, you pull a credit card and you buy it. And there are companies out there that do that sort of work as well, if not better than what we do. We're more into that sale where it's a high ticket item where the audience is going to be doing some research online before they engage a sales team. So I mentioned a robotic welder. If you think about B2C, I'm selling a high ticket item like a spa pool or a car or a house or some sort of accessory, luxury accessories or accessories that have got a high ticket item where I'll be doing my research before I reach out. B2B, perfect fit for us. So you're selling in a B2B environment, whether it be direct to market or through a channel. Again, those are very, very good fits for us, and we've had tremendous success working in those sorts of industries. So those are kind of the things that fit well for us. We've also got a very, very good learning centre on our website. I'm sure you'll put the link in there at the bottom here, Prosper, for a link to our website. Go to our website, go to our learning centre. We've got some tremendous ebooks. We've got some assessments that people can do in their own time, in their own space. They're designed to be, I love your positioning of being able to educate an audience. So it's about that educational process. So on the website, the Learning Centre has been set up to help educate and give people thoughts and ideas for tips and tricks that they can do themselves to make their business more efficient and more effective. So that's another good place to start.
Absolutely. And I'll definitely be putting all those links to the show notes there so that people can get started on that journey. Now, Steve, I can't thank you enough for the time that we've spent, on the call today. Your life story and your experience and everything else that you're putting together is just so important for those that are looking to enhance their online presence without random acts of marketing. Now, you introduced us to younger Stephen, who was going to the UK and just, taking time off from having been in the Navy and things of that nature. Did you know that you were going to come back and be this person that you are now today at that time?
No, not at all. But you know what? I followed my heart, and I followed what I'm passionate about. Passion is one of our core values at Growth Partners, and I'm so passionate about what I do. I love the notion of helping others to achieve their goals and their dreams. We just have a vehicle which allows people to do that. So for me, it's always been about that. It's about having a value alignment with the people that we're working with, because I believe that a value exchange starts with a value alignment. Working with good people that are looking to do meaningful work out there in the world, and then helping those people to accelerate their impact in the world. That really lights my fire. That's what gets me up every single day and keeps me going out there, is helping others to achieve more.
Absolutely. I like Seth Godin's statement, do work that matters for people who care. And I think that you are embodying that statement through and through. But what's next? What can we expect now from Growth Partners now that you've introduced us to your world?
Well, look, I think for us as a team, another one of our core values is Kaizen, that lovely Japanese word for continuous improvement. And we have to keep on continually improving and changing the way that we're doing things. You know, Google, the dominant player for now in the market, they tell us a couple of things. First of all, they tell us that 15% of all searches that they see every single day are brand new. They've never seen them before. Now, that's you and I and your audience changing the way that we're searching. You know, we see long tail search. We see people using their mobile phones and talking to their devices. We see images and videos and all of these changes in the way that we're searching. So we're changing. And as a company that's looking to engage with that audience, we need to adapt. What are Google doing? Well, they tell us that in 2023 alone, they changed their algorithm over 4,500 times, right? Just to keep up with those changes. So the days of having a traditional static brochure website, as we've talked about already, those days are dead. The days of set and forget websites, they're gone. You know, you've got to have the sales concierge, which is continually adapting and changing. If you want to grow your audience and if you want to engage that audience, take them on a journey and then generate opportunities for your business. So for us, we understand those changes, and a big part of our role and our partnerships with our customers is to make sure that we're across these changes and these technology shifts so that we can keep our customers up to date, relevant, sources of authority that their customers love and trust, and we continue to grow their business. So that's constant change for us that we pass on to our customers to keep them at the top of their game.
Absolutely. That's pretty much the engineering mindset right there, because you're constantly improving, making things more efficient and more better, if that's a word. You know,
It is now.
Now,
We
Steve,
got a new word.
Absolutely. Now, Steve, thank you so much for sharing with us your incredible journey and your invaluable insights with us today. I mean, all of this, your life story and what it is that you're now helping other people make sense of the internet, especially through the use of their websites. It's just incredible. So many people are just doing random acts of marketing out there instead of sitting back and then building their websites backwards in order to actually speak to and connect with the right kind of people and the right leads that will end up buying from them. So this has been incredible, man.
Yeah, well, look, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Loved our conversation, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be involved.
Absolutely. For those that are watching right now, thank you so much. You've heard the secrets. You need to build your website backwards. So if you found this episode as enlightening as I did, be sure to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more inspiring conversations like this. And in our next episode, we will explore ideas designed to help you lead a happier and more fulfilling life. And while you're at it, don't forget to share this podcast with someone who could benefit from today's discussion. So many people are just spraying and praying with their marketing out there and doing random acts of marketing. So you could help them, get aligned and start building their websites backwards. And just stay tuned for more content that will empower you to thrive. And I will be putting all those links that Steve has given us, so you can reach out to Steve and the Growth Partners team and start your journey towards prosperity today. Until next time, bye for now.